Right here, right now.
It's time to get totally crossed out with Brandon and Shannon. This is the only podcast where money, sports, technology, culture, and relationships cross. That's right, straight out of Indianapolis. From the 317 studios. Two brothers, real talk, right focus, right here and right now. Let's get totally crossed out with your podcast host, brothers from another mother, just trying to do it the right way, Brandon and Shannon.
Yeah, what's going on, y'all? What is going on? We are live and direct for another episode of Totally
Crossed Out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Grady, what's good, my brother? How you living today?
Man, I'm nothing but smiles, man. I'm nothing but smiles. We got some friends on the podcast today, man. This is about to be a fun time. I can feel it.
No doubt, man. Episode 20. We're in episode 20, man. We got a wonderful cast of characters here blessing the show today. For those of y'all checking out the podcast, man, we heard y'all from last week. So we said we got to run it back and add one. You know what I mean? Shannon, who we got in the building today, man? Who we have in the building today? Let the people on the audio podcast know what's going on.
Yeah, we got here to the top middle. We got my man Jay in the building.
What up, Jay?
What's up, Jay?
Hey, what's going on now? Thanks for having me back.
Right on. One of our esteemed guests also, my man to my upper right, we got F. Patterson. What's up with you, homeboy?
Yeah.
FP.
That West Side. We just got done talking about that West Side connection, didn't we? Yay.
Hendricks County.
Hey, that was a pre-show conversation we had, y'all. Pre-show conversation. But anyway, to my lower left, we got my man Charles. What's up with you, man?
How's it going? Glad to be here.
What's up, Bishop?
Ooh. And last but not least of our esteemed guests, we got my man Jay Hash Jr. coming right back with us. What's up, man? We got to change your audio. We got to change your audio. We're going to get you in there. Go ahead and check your audio real quick, and we'll get you back in there.
We got Joe Hass in the building, man. It's good to see these brothers up in here, man. We got Jay, FP, Charles. We'll get Jay Hass back in a minute, man. But here we go, man. It's the week of it's big in Indianapolis this year, wasn't it, Brady? It's big in Indy.
Yeah, man. A lot going. Man, downtown was rocking, man. And because of a big event that took place, man, for all the marbles in the NCAA Division I Bowl Series or Bowl Division. That's what they call it, right? The Bowl Division. Right. So yeah, we had the championships downtown, man. That's a really big deal, man. I ain't gonna lie, man. A lot of times I overlook like a lot of things that happen like right here in our own backyard. Just kind of take it for granted. But that's out of all the cities, it was here. You know what I'm saying? That's a big deal.
Yeah, it was dope, man. I mean, it's always good to see the city on with the lights on doing their thing. Had the championship going on, man. And we I didn't get to go, man, but I know we got some folk on the panel that got to make it around there, man. So go ahead and break us off, man. Fernando, I hear you was in the building, man. Is that what happened?
Yeah, man. So my brother came up from Kentucky, and my son and I we all went. We got us some. It was kind of a last minute thing, man. We snuck some tickets when the Cincinnati got beat. The tickets dipped for like a day or so, and we hit them when they dipped. But it was fun, man. It was really fun. I'm an SEC dude too, so it was SEC Championship Part 2, and Georgia came with it, man. It was a big deal.
So how you supporting an SEC and not the Big Ten is what I'm trying to understand though right now.
Yeah, hey, I was born in the University of Kentucky Hospital, man. I was born a Wildcat fan. Don't say nothing, Charles.
Yeah,
we got some Louisville fans in the house.
B, that's a whole nother podcast. But
we got to get both of y'all to understand what's going on. But yet y'all are here though, in the state of Indiana though, somehow, some way.
That's true. But the best conference in football, SEC, man.
Yeah, I can't argue that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The last 18 years they won it 16 times. It's something crazy. Like, it's crazy.
But did you enjoy it? What was the atmosphere like? I'm just trying to see what the atmosphere was. It like live? I mean, was it crazy or was it pretty chill? I mean, on TV it seemed like it was pretty wild.
So when we got there, walking around to our seats, I was kind of like, man, we probably shouldn't have came because it was like COVID Central. It was like body to body, and I'm like, man, I haven't got my son and my brother infected. So we get through that part, and then we started getting through. And the crazy thing, man, it was a real good atmosphere, even with the Georgia that I saw with the Georgia and the Alabama fans, and there was a lot of drunk people. I'll say that though. We got after the game, we got hugged several times. And my son was looking at me like, why they hugging us? And I'm just like, just keep walking, bro. It's all good.
It was pretty good, all right.
People, I mean, just crying tears of joy. I'm like, man. So.
You know something that's interesting? It just dawned on me that both teams are red and white, man. Like, could you tell a difference who was Georgia, who was Bama?
So it's crazy, man. We you really couldn't because of that. But the chance, I had never been anywhere with the chance like that. So when Alabama was doing the Roll Tide, it was crazy. I got I'm gonna give y'all a little sample if it won't mess nothing up.
You did.
Can y'all hear that?
Oh yeah.
It was crazy. That was whoa. And then they would stop, and then the Georgia fans would go UGA, 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 and then they would switch off like that, and that was just crazy. Yeah,
that's
cool.
Yeah.
I know we were looking I would say earlier in the week, not because we were going to go, because like you said, there's a lot of people in there, but it was I want to say the nosebleeds was $750 is what I saw, just kind of doing a quick check, and that's way up there where you just basically watching TV, to be in the building, which is wow.
Yep.
People about that college football life for sure.
Yeah.
Oof, man.
Yeah, they was dropping cheese.
I'm not sure who'd have to be playing for me to drop $500-$700 on the ticket.
That'd be Jordan's last game type stuff for me, to be honest with you.
I feel you.
But now I'm glad you got to make it, man. Joe Hash, you back with us, man? Man, we got to get Joseph, man. We got to get him back.
We got to get Joe in, man.
What was Joe doing, man?
But we don't hear you.
He might be out there Ubering or something. What's he going, man?
He was chauffeuring folks, I believe, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He was, yeah.
Back and forth to different events the whole week, I think.
That's right.
That's
that
great.
Was an excellent experience. Yeah, we'll definitely get him back on here and get the connections fixed up, because I'm eager to hear about that.
Yeah.
Jay, did you have a dog in the fight, man?
No, I sure didn't. But next time.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Am I back in there?
You, man?
Oh yeah.
We can hear him.
We got you.
All right. Yeah. I went and found my hat in the meantime.
That made all the difference. That's it. That's right.
The hat.
Is that y'all that can't see, Joe Jr. just showed back up with a herringbone, a big face watch, and he got a big stocking hat on.
That's right.
A patch on it. With a patch on it. Am I got that about right, Joe Jr.?
You got it about right. I was trying to find my jacket and my pullover they blessed us with.
So, that's right.
For the volunteering, so it was super cool.
Because his mic wouldn't work. Yeah.
What was it, Joe? What were they doing? So tell me what this whole situation was, man. You broke some of it. You said I'm driving. What is that?
Yeah, so you get an opportunity so basically I've been volunteering for the Indiana Sports Corporation for several years, and you can volunteer for all kind of stuff from college championships to the corporate challenges, and so they needed more volunteers for the college football playoffs, and so I signed up to drive. You go in and you sign up for various shifts, and basically, they do a background check, driving record check, and all that, and you get approved. And so went to orientation, and they gave us our hats and our the cool part about it, man, that as you might imagine, next to the Super Bowl, this event for Indianapolis was huge, man. This was next level down from the Super Bowl, so it's been planned for the last 3-4 years or whatever it is. And it was so well organized. I was so impressed with that aspect of it. I think there was almost 2,000 volunteers, everything from courtesy drivers to, they had folks walking around downtown. Their sole job was strictly just to be information providers. They had on certain armbands where you could ask them, hey, where can I go to get a good steak? So it was so well laid out. So that was real impressive. What ended up happening, though, the shifts that I signed up for ended up being like I signed up for early morning. I signed up for late evening on Thursday, which was technically the first night. And it was a lot of airport runs, folks coming in to and from the airport, of course, just to get there. And then my shift that I had on Friday morning ended up getting canceled just because there just wasn't a lot of drivers needed for Friday morning. But what was really crazy by the time Saturday rolled around, you guys might remember, there was a straight up ice storm that rolled into town here Saturday afternoon. And so you had cars flipping and dipping all around Indy. And so the driving became, it was pretty serious driving, but overall it was a great time. I would do it again at any time we have anything, I'll sign up for it, especially if it's got anything to do with driving. Now, the one thing that I was not that impressed with, some events that you sign up for, depending upon who sponsors it, if it's BMW, Mercedes, then that's what you're going to be driving. Just like when Tiger Woods got his accident last year, it was an event sponsored by Genesis, and so that's what he was driving. But I'm not sure where all these Chryslers came in at, and if there's any Chrysler fans out there, But yeah, man. So I was, got the keys to some pretty boring whips, man. So you
got an expert in the house.
I was pretty upset about that, man. But
that was Joe Jr., y'all. Don't get mad at us. That's Joe Jr. That's him talking about Chrysler. Just so you know,
all day.
Yeah, but the heat worked, and so I ain't got no complaints. But
so, Joe, I'm curious, man, because you said you were courtesy driving. Does that mean like Uber wasn't running down there? It was only you guys.
So good question. So basically, what it is it's car service for those that are connected to the event. So so basically the folks that would be getting the courtesy drive would be coaches, players, those individuals that actually basically make their appointments through the football playoff committee, and then they schedule it with us as the drivers, and they let us know who we're picking up, where they're at, and they connect us. But it's just not public. It's just a courtesy for the committee, for the folks connected to the event.
I see you.
That's neat.
Any crazy people? Did you run into somebody like who's just wild?
People.
You know what I'm saying? Or is it just all normal, wonderful corporate?
Yeah, and the thing about it, man, I'm ashamed to say it, that my sports acumen is so I don't really know. There probably were some pretty. I don't know. I don't know names.
Nick Saban. He didn't even know.
Right.
I don't know names, but
commercial.
Yeah, if you circle back to me in May for the 500 or something, I got you. But unless it was Peyton Manning or Andrew Luck or something, I wouldn't know who was in the car, man.
Right on.
Speaking of Andrew Luck, man, what was going on with my man at the game, man?
There was some folks that was pretty upset that he was there, man.
No, it was like social media was just going out. Because he just looked like, I don't know, he looked like, I think he's enjoying his retirement, but he wasn't shaving.
He dropped a lot of weight. Yeah. He looked a lot thinner too.
He looked like something like, I was like, whoa, what's going on with Luck? Because RG3 was standing beside him, and he looked like he was about to present a case in front of the Supreme Court. Looked like he was going to defend Luck in court. So, what was going on?
I didn't see it. Like Joe, like they didn't. I mean, I get it; it's volunteer, but man, how much money does this thing make? You know what I mean? Like that just kind of blows my mind. And all I got was his hat. Is that really what it was?
Well, I got a real nice jacket and a pullover too. So. Okay. And they had, but you know what? But really, on real talk though, part of it is too. Like we had credentials, so I could get into all the Fan Central, all the events that went on. They had raffles for the volunteers to win tickets, to win hotel stays, things like that. So there's various aspects of it, in all defense of the organization. But without the volunteers, I mean, it couldn't run. I mean, I'm not sure I say that obviously it could from a financial perspective, but I just think, there's so many other perks that come along with it that, I don't think they'll ever be short of volunteers or have to worry about paying volunteers. There'll always be folks that want to, be a part of it. So, yeah.
I see what you mean.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hey, but you're right, though, B. I was just thinking $500 a ticket for nosebleeds. Hey, man, look here, man. I'm happy these dudes getting paid nowadays, man. But that's a whole nother show,
Man,
a whole nother topic.
It is. I still feel a kind of way about how college sports is monetized and valued and what happens. But like you say, that's a whole nother economic conversation.
Yeah.
You happy with the outcome, Charles?
No, and I'll tell you why, man. I am a proud rambling wreck from Georgia Tech, and so the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and so for 3 hours and 42 minutes, I was an Alabama fan, and they couldn't get it done, right? I mean, so it's one of those things. You know how in-state rivalries can be, but if you've just never been in Georgia, it is like straight hate between UGA and Georgia Tech, and look, I'm not gonna act like it's like we already said, right? The SEC hands down is the best conference in football, and for a long time, UGA has had our number when we kind of have our annual meetups, whether it's at Bobby Dodd or in between the hedges there. But yeah, man, it's just I'm just glad I'm not in the state, because I know them other fans are insufferable right now, and it's been. But yeah, that it is what it is. But one thing I will say though, man, and this is. Just watching, it was just like, man, these are some grown men playing football. I mean, these are like some NFL like ready yesterday.
Yes.
I mean, they fast, they big, they hitting. I mean, it is even within just college ball, it's a different level of just everything. And it's just like, man, these dudes are this ain't the Fritos, corn chip bowl. You know what I'm saying? These dudes was getting it in, and it was just like, yeah, these cats they ready for an NFL team. They gonna walk straight in there like, what's the workout? Yeah, this is what we've been doing. Let's get it in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think the story from the Georgia's quarterback, man, like, being there and then not starting, going to a junior college, coming back, being on the scout team and then making it and winning the championship. That's pretty deep.
That is a crazy story. It is pretty cool. I just see these people getting hit almost like every 2 or 3 plays. Somebody struggling to get up, man. I think about that and that whole life impact. And I get the fanfare and all that, but I still remember a conversation with my mom. So she was like, yeah, Brandon, he's not going to play. And I was like,
Hey, I can't relate. I know what you mean, brother. I can relate to that.
Come on, man. And I look back and my pops was like, yeah, that probably was the right decision. You know what I'm saying? It's his limping his way. You know what I'm saying? The playing in school. So like you said, and those are grown folk. You know what I mean? NFL ready.
But I think the thing that gets me about that, man, like sometimes you'll see, like, especially with Alabama, you'll see half the senior team or whatever the case might be go to the NFL, but then the next year they right back like they never left, man. It's like, where do they keep getting these dudes from? Is there some kind of factory down there, man? Like, where do these dudes keep? Like, some teams that do that have to rebuild, for a year, 2 or 3, but man, they come right back that next year like they never left.
Yeah, lined up. You like Jay? You could have run linebacker for somebody, Jay. No.
No, not anymore. And those days are definitely over with. It's fun to think about, though. I only play football and video games, so.
Long live man, you know what I mean?
That's right.
That's right.
Man. What else you got, S. Grady?
Yeah, you was talking about the whips. Joe Jr. was talking about the whips, man, and you was disappointed they didn't have any bow ties, huh? Hey, for those that are listening, this man is officially a Chevy aficionado. Whips overall, but definitely Chevy. So to be driving a Chrysler was like like the Bloods going against the Crips. I mean, it was done to him.
Yeah, no disrespect to Lehigh Coca, man, but yeah, I mean, obviously they're nice rides because they're new, right? I mean, so they had a Dodge Charger, but you had some Pacificas and some. I mean, but to be fair, we're shuttling folks around, so the whole goal was, efficiency and that kind of thing, and so it just wasn't that kind of program, but the heat worked. So
hey,
Joe was in that fresh. Joe was in that fresh 2022 Sebring, getting it in.
Man.
Hey, I'm gonna rewind real quick though. When he said Pacifica, y'all started cracking up. I drove them for a while.
I know you did, but to your defense, though, brother, it was a company vehicle.
Cracking up, man. When you said Pacifica, like, wait a second, I drove them for.
But it was a company vehicle, though, bro.
Yeah, he's getting that boy for free.
Mm-hmm.
But just because you drove one doesn't mean it's not funny, though. As you know what I'm saying? That actually makes it funnier. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, but look here, Grady. But if you gonna drive one, the one that you drove, brother, was fully loaded, and I mean, we had several nice trips in there, and the screens on the back of the seat. So hey, if you're gonna drive one, go all out, and I think that's the difference. Like with an event like this, I mean, you're just one step above a rental car, kind of, sort of. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't that kind of show, but it's all good.
Y'all ain't got to snap on Grady on that, man. But I will say this, Joe Jr. Like, why Chevy? Okay,
my first car was wait a minute. Let me do a change, man.
He got a Chevy hat on.
Yeah, we're gonna let you know. No, we didn't change topics, so I'm just gonna take it, man. That hat is hot, bro. I think, man, my first car was a '73 Monte Carlo, and from that point forward, man, there was just. I mean, Malibus, Novas, Monte Carlo. It's just what you wanted growing up. Impalas, and so I just never lost my love for the bow tie. The only thing that's ever run concurrent with that has been Oldsmobile. I've had several Oldsmobiles. I like my V8s and my Oldsmobiles, but just give me a Chevy any day, man. And it's easy to fix, easy to drive. It's just a good old car, man.
Hey, man, for the rest of the show, I'm calling him Uncle Joe Jr. That sound like something my uncle would say, doesn't it? I drove it. What's your go-to? Fernando F. Patterson, what's you going to if you had to grab a whip?
If I had to grab a whip. Man.
Hey, money's not an option. Let me put that disclaimer. Like,
money's not an option?
Yeah, I mean, money's no issue. Yeah.
Man, I saw, I hear all these cats on little shows talking about Lambos and stuff like that. And I was like, man, that ain't all that. So I went to an event about a month or two ago, and I saw one, and I was like, whoa. The Lambo. Yeah, the doors going up on the side like that. But a little bit, man, back I'm not like a super big Chevy fan, but my first car that I bought myself was a 70 Bel Air when I was in college. And it's crazy, man. That car was huge. Like half my frat could sit in the whole car at the same time. And the crazy thing about it had like some minor like mechanic stuff that needed to be done for it, man. And I couldn't afford to get it done and ended up just signing it over to the dude. Yeah,
just leaving it on the side of the road.
Leaving it. Yeah, I was like, and now I'm thinking like I could have sold I could have sold that car. Like, I mean, just for the frame, because the frame is in decent shape. Could have got a few stacks for it. Like, man.
Hey, the frame works. That's so funny. The body feels good.
We're on with everything else.
There's nothing wrong with the frame. That's right.
Hey.
All it needs is a good engine, but the frame.
That frame, boy. Don't tell me about them frames.
My goodness. Man. Hold on, Jay. I know you got a little bit of old school in you too, though. Come on, Jay. You've been known to drive a whip for more than 1 year.
Yeah, I'm probably going on 15 right now, but I'm probably more functional than fancy. So I got the old school sport utility or one of the transports. Anything I could live in, I'd probably be a fan of.
He said times got tough.
Exactly. I need to be able to make money, man. You never know.
I can be anywhere I need to be. I see you, Jay.
I need to change clothes in the back. Yeah, I got to have room.
That's right, man. I gotta move some boxes for somebody. Get paid, son.
Ain't nothing wrong with
What you pushing, man?
Man, you know what? Hey, man, you touched my heart, Uncle Joe Jr., when you said Oldsmobile. And, man, those were my first two whips at an 88, Delta 88. Ooh. I had them. It was named the Grady Mobile, and then I got a newer one. It was what year was it? That was an 88. So the newer one, I think it was a 92 Delta 88.
I think you had that when I met you. Did you have that when I met you? Yeah,
I did.
Yeah.
I did, yeah. So it was the same exact car as the previous. It was just 4 years newer. So I named it Junior because it was the same car. So I just named that one Junior. So, hey, you got to name your whip. You got to name your whip.
I've always loved the way you named your whips, man. From Ginobili to Chan to you name it, bro. I love the names you come up with.
Name them.
Yeah. CPOC was a Pacifica, and then I'm a CPOC.
CPOC.
Pacifica, yes, sir.
Come a long way.
But I'm with you, though, Patterson, man. Money's not an issue, and I had my pick. Man, I gotta give me a Lambo, at Venador. Hey, Uncle Joe, man, that what's his name? Will. That YouTube channel, what's it? Will
Motivation.
Will Motivation. That's it. Hey, man, he be having some whips, man. He be having some Lambos on there.
Yeah, he just had his Venador SV wrapped, and yeah,
it's stupid.
Yeah, he's a real cool dude, man. He's out of Ohio. If you guys get an opportunity, it's called Will Motivation. Real cool brother, real touchable. Yeah. He always has a way of kind of helping you to kind of understand how he makes his bread and how he finances his whips and stuff like that. And he kind of takes you along with him. So if you get a chance, check him out. Will Motivation.
Yeah. So, yeah. But that's, like I said, money can't be an issue because he did do one episode. How much does it cost to maintain that thing? Man, I got discouraged. I said, you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe way later on in life, it was intense.
Yeah. And the thing about it, though, man, here in the Midwest, though, I mean, something like that, you just don't. I mean, one pothole, you're done. I mean, you're just not going to enjoy it, other than to look at it and roll down the street a few times. But you need to be in Florida, California, somewhere. You need to be somewhere you can enjoy the car.
That kind of money, you need to drive that thing. I'm driving that to the mailbox. You know what I'm saying? Drive that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Charles, what you pushing? All things being equal.
Man, I am not a car aficionado. I'm kind of like Uncle Joe with sport ball, right? You know, he just be, just kind of floating through. But I will tell you this though. I mean, I messed around. We were laughing about Chryslers and Dodges and stuff, but I had a chance to drive a Dodge Challenger once for a rental, and just. Man, it changed my life. And so after that, I was like, man, I want something with some oomph underneath the hood. So look, just to kind of show y'all, and for folks that are listening and watching, that we kick it for real. We do life together. About a year and a half ago, I went through a car search, and I was like, I want a Nissan Maxima. It's practical from a family perspective, but it also has a little get up. Right, it's got a little go in it. And so me and Joe man, we hit the open road looking for one, man. We rode out, went to go look at a couple, almost started a race riot in a little town in Ohio.
Just trying to get some Popeye sandwiches, man. That's all.
Some Popeye, man.
That's so uncle conversation. He said,
hey. And that's the truth. Funny. It sounds like we being funny, but that is like the God honest truth. And look, another podcast. We will tell that story. But I settled on. I was able to find a 2016 Nissan Maxima, and man, let me tell you something. It's got it's fun to drive. I enjoy it. It's got a sport mode on it that basically I think it just opens a little hatch on the gas tank and just lets the gas kind of pour out because it burns through it when you're using it. But it is fun. It's got some get up and go when I hit that gas pedal. Look, 300 horsepower. It ain't the fastest thing out there, but it's faster than a lot of stuff. So
that's right.
It's fun to drive. It's fun to drive. So yeah.
Hey,
What about you, B?
Yeah, on you.
Yeah, I know you're gonna quietly slip up behind all of us and smash the gas and smoke us all. But
listen, no, I'm really looking hard at this EV game, man. The electric vehicle game. I think it's gonna take a while to get you there, Uncle Joe. But that's where it is for me. That instant torque. Talk about that need. It'll get you on out there if you need to get on out there. So that's what I'd probably be eyeing. Getting on that. I'm a huge Tesla fan, you know what I mean? But Elon's lost his mind with some of his pricing, so I'm just waiting for something to give. But it seems like everybody else is trying to hop in the EV game too. So that I'd probably be on the EV side, one day.
I tell you what, man. In all actuality, when I first drove the Tesla for the first time, I'd be remiss if I did not tell you it blew my mind. If I could get that pickup with a V8 sound, sign me up, brother. I mean, when I smashed that gas, it took me back to my old school racetrack days when you hit it. And then the crazy part is when I took my foot off the gas, it just kind of stopped. It was like, man, this is a whole different way of driving here.
Man, that's crazy.
That's right.
Listen, right. I'll tell you this. And first of all, you can just plug some headphones, man, and you can fix that sound thing real quick. But I remember I test drove one. I've been looking at these for years before it was kind of popular and everybody moved to EV. And I mean, true story. My pops and I were doing a test drive. This when they were trying to get people hype about it. And we got in the SUV, the Model X, and we were just doing it. We said, "Hey, can we test drive it?" Like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So I'm driving the little associate, the service advisors or sales advisors in the passenger seat, and my dad's in the back seat. Okay, so they got the three in the back, and he's buckled up. He's like, "Hey," and I'm driving it easy because I know I can't afford this, so I'm not about to run into nothing. So I'm just not pushing it hard. And he said, "Man, go ahead and give it a little something." And I'm telling you, I hit it, and not only did my head go back, my dad fall over out the seat into the side of the thing. This thing is right, and that's the SUV. You know what I mean? As heavy as those things are, and plus they save save for y'all don't know Shannon. Y'all gonna come to know he's Groupon Grady.
Yes, sir.
Even that dealership.
And that mug is like 7 to 10 times cheaper, man, just in terms of operating costs. So, for those of y'all who are into making sure you save $1 or $2 in the long, it'll save you a little bit because I'm going to that gas station every week. It's hitting my heart nowadays with these prices. So I'm just saying, I'm just saying it's nice to not have to worry about that. So Joe, come on, Uncle Joe, you're going to get there. I'm just looking for the day.
One day we're going to sit down, B, and we're going to look at the cost analysis and kind of put our spreadsheets together so you can show me that sweet spot, the break-even point when I get the rest of my money back from that upfront cost. So I want to know when that day is.
That's right. What's the return? How many cycles I got to go through? That's right. Yeah.
That's right. It might be when Braden's got grandchildren, but whatever that is, we'll work it out.
It's going to happen eventually.
That's right.
No, but that's
I'm slowly but surely getting on board, B. I was the last one to get a VCR, brother, and but once I realized you didn't have to be kind and rewind, I was hooked, man. I was like, man, I could just take this back. I don't have to rewind it. So
no, we got you to the iPhone here recently, so I think
exactly
a year and a half, 2 years, and you'll be there. I'm guessing it's probably gonna be about 2025, and then we'll get you on board. Yeah.
Right.
When Chevy has one that looks nice, then that'll be about the time. That's my guess.
Mm-hmm. It won't be long. They all gonna do it. They won't be long.
Yeah. It's where it's at nowadays.
Didn't GM commit to what 2035 or something?
Mm-hmm.
Total the whole fleet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Multi-billions into investment in that space. Yeah.
Hey, I know one thing I'm looking forward to when they're like fully automated driving. I know that's what's really hot nowadays because My man F. Patterson needs that because I've worked with him before.
Hey,
I'm just saying.
Hey man, what happened?
We in that full automated driving.
hey, that's great. That's the second thing that changed my life. With Fernando. Jeez,
Hey,
Lord.
we got third back, man.
Yeah.
Safe.
Hey, look here. Prior to that trip, I'll be honest. I used to think seatbelts were optional. Oh, man, please. No, seatbelts are a necessity.
Hey, B, suffice it to say that after a while I was driving, and we was just like it was Fernando's car, but I was driving.
That's all I need to know.
They just took over my whip.
I'm just saying, when somebody drives and they driving like this, you know, they talking to everybody in the car, you know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, dude, you might want to.
and then quietly, we all got this good idea. It was like, wait a minute, you know what, Charles? We in your hometown, man. Why don't you should probably drive.
They started finessing
your
like,
hometown.
Charles knows where he's going, so let him drive.
Hey, B, when I took them keys, I was like, okay.
Nope.
Grady was praying in the back.
Man,
Grady was hanging on to both of them handles.
hanging all over the floor.
That's right.
It was a good trip, and Fernando, thank you for supplying the ride, brother. It was a good trip. So
yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
One more joke. While we joking though, on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you want to get someplace the same day that you're driving, the gentleman that's at the bottom in the middle of the screen, may that be the one you want to
see. Now, all I need. Well, let me say this differently. All I don't need is for Karen Wright to walk in on this conversation and get her started. Since I dished it out to Patterson, I'm gonna take it too. So
that's right. Hey, my wife. Hey, Joe, my wife goes in so hard on you, I'd be feeling bad. I'd be like, oh. I'd be texting Joe, I'm sorry, man.
But let me clear this up. See, sometimes just knowing that you have the ability to do something doesn't mean you need to do it. So kind of like B was saying with the EV, just knowing that it's there sometimes is just enough, and then you just chill. But then when I get around y'all folks, y'all make a brother, you know, somebody driving backwards and, you know, ended up in the same spot that he left in and stuff like that.
Hey, Shannon, Joe tried to tell all the jokes before we get them out. He tried to say,
That's right. Well, y'all brothers are raw. Man. That's why I love y'all, man.
Jay, you still in the building, Jay?
Yes, sir.
I know it's man, we got through the 2022. I gotta throw, you know, we're gonna introduce a new segment here as we segue. I want to say, you know, Jay, for those of y'all who haven't been on, Jay's a little bit of a regular, man. He does stimulate some good conversation. Shannon, I think you would agree, perhaps.
Man, very much so. Very much so.
We're gonna debut this segment officially. We're gonna call not question of the day, but question of the Jay. We get ready for you, Jay. What's going on?
Eyes wide open, ain't seen it yet. Time sticking and I'm thinking, where she at? Swinging the misfits. You can line them up, keep on trying, but can't find the one to be mine. Just want one girl to be mine.
So yeah, we got Jay. Jay, what you got for us today, my brother? You know, spotlight's on you, bro. You got a panel.
Wow, well, it's funny you guys mentioned cars today, as it seems like everyone's favorite cars are those that are classics that probably appreciate, but most cars probably don't and depreciate. And I was curious, since so many brothers are married, I had a question about cars. Thinking about wives is classics and probably value to women because they fear the Lord. I'm curious, how does a Christian husband prevent his wife from becoming an idol? The context for this question comes from 1 Corinthians 7, when Paul speaks about in a married man being concerned with the work of the Lord and how he can please the Lord. But the married man is concerned with the affairs of the world and how he can please his wife, and his interests being divided. If in Exodus, God says that we shouldn't have any other idols other than him, I was curious, how do Christian husbands keep their focus on God while being married?
It's a brilliant question, Jay. I appreciate it. I'm going to toss it up to our newest guest on the panel, see what Uncle Jay has to throw out here, and we'll just go around and see what's what. Jay, what you got, Haskins?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. That's definitely that's one that, man, I would have loved to have got that question like at 2:00 sometime to really be able to just kind of come out it, But I would say that, from a standpoint of, when you think about an idol is anything that we put before God. And I think that we as husbands have to realize that, we do have the propensity to idolize our wives. And I think a lot of times we may do it from the standpoint of trying to please her, trying not to make her mad, trying not to upset her, trying to make sure that, you hear this stuff where, probably one of the most untrue statements that you can hear out there regarding a man and his wife is, happy wife, happy life, and all that kind of stuff. And I think sometimes we can have the ability to idolize our wives, trying not to ruffle the waters, if you will. But I think a husband that's truly seeking to, when you look at Ephesians 5, and truly seeking to, as we're told in Ephesians 5, where Paul tells us to love our wives as Christ loved the church, and to wash her with the word, and we're truly seeking to be that kind of husband, then sometimes the aspect of that is going to come with not necessarily admonishment, but it's going to come with, my love for her is going to cause me to, well, let me say this, my love for Christ is going to cause me to look at him more than I look at her, which may not always make her happy. There may not always be a happy wife there. If what I'm doing is pleasing to the Lord according to his word, then that needs to be okay with me as a husband. Now, I think part of my love for her, or part of my loving her as Christ loved the church, I'm going to do this in such a way that's going to be done in love, which is hopefully going to, help her to digest it better, take it better, knowing where it's coming from. As she sees my track record as a husband and the way that I care for her and love her. So all that said, Jay, I think it's a it's a great question, because it's one that happens every day in marriage. But as a husband that's seeking to please the Lord, I need to be more concerned about pleasing him than making her happy. And of course, if I can do that, then she will have to be okay with that.
Fernando, what you think?
Oh man, some good stuff, Joe. I say with me, it's just it's battling a balance, and I think I'm not 100% there, but the battle with me, I can tell if, depending on how close I am with the Lord, or how much I'm reading, how much I'm doing what I should be doing on an ongoing basis, I can drift over into that, because she's there. I see her every day, and some of the things that I'm doing are glorifying the Lord. But then at sometimes it can bleed over into, okay, I'm doing too much because she's not the Lord. She's here and I'm doing this for her and I love her, but is my focus too much on her and not on him? And I see that just the balance piece with my kids too. I saw it. And I know you didn't ask this question. I'll bring it back home. But even with, I say with my relationship that I had with my mom too. And then when she passed away, it grew me up in a whole bunch of areas, because I was focusing and leaning on her too much. And then when she passed away, then that kind of opened the door. I'm not saying that I want my wife to pass away, but I think it's a thin line when you're doing the right thing, dipping over into the idolatry piece. I hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. That's that.
Yeah, I believe, and I'm gonna refer back to what Charles shared last week in regards to having a godly woman who is living her life for the King. And I said it because if she's striving for godliness and righteousness, she's growing in her faith, then she's going to be able to recognize if I'm making her an idol, and she'll, in a loving way say, hey, you know what, we might have to kind of, change some things up a little bit, because she recognizes some things that, hey, I know your first love is God. That's who you first and foremost surrender to, and who you are to pledge your allegiance to. And obviously, yeah, you are to definitely love me, and that's part of your role. But I think having that godly wife is going to help kind of put you in check, is what I'm trying to say. And even going back to that passage that Joe Jr. said, Ephesians 5, that 25, the very next verse, to 26. Part of the husband's responsibility is to wash her with the water and the word, and helping her to grow and mature, which will get her to the point where she can let you know that, hey, you know what, you're putting me way too high on a pedestal. It basically higher than where God is. And obviously she is to be, elevated, she is to be loved and treated very nice. That's very clear, but obviously not to exceed to where God is, to the point of idolatry. So I think really just having that good godly wife is very helpful in that regard.
It's real.
Yeah.
Charles?
Yeah, that's I mean, everybody has said it, and that's a good question. I think that, one thing that idolatry, at the root of idolatry, is believing that you're getting something from something else that you only should be getting from God. Mm-hmm. Right. And excuse me. And so sometimes, if it's, excuse me, it can, if it's some kind of sense of stability and calm, or sense of self-worth and those kinds of things, it becomes this tension, because the wife being the suitable helpmate means that she was given to us as husbands in this relationship to fill a missing gap, right? It's God who says it's not good for man to be alone. So there is something definitely that we are to get from the relationship with the wife. But I think it's all about, and I think that's what all the brothers have been kind of touching on. It's about proper perspective, right? Because you think about it, right? That idolatry is extreme, kind of overt, kind of affection and love and worship for something, specifically from our context, other than God. And that's a high bar. But then the husband, and Joe, you mentioned this, in Ephesians 5, is commanded to love his wife as Christ loved the church. That's a high bar.
Yes, it is.
Right. And so I think that there is something there, right? I don't believe that it's kind of an either or, right? It's I either love her as Christ loved the church, or I'm doing this idolatry thing. But I think that when we talk about, idolizing our wives, it's more of an internal thing. It's more about what's inside of us as it relates to our wives. Am I gleaning something from having her on my arm, having her in my life, whatever the case may be, that I should be getting from God? And I think it really is not so much about, you take care of her, man, you idolizing your wife. Well, I don't know that that's what I'm doing. I think it depends on where my heart is, as I'm, in kind of at the root of why I'm doing these things. We know We're told to deal with our wives in an understanding way. We're told to treat them as the fragile, valuable vessel, right? That God has entrusted in our care, so to speak. And that's high, right? That's a high bar of kind of affection, attention, and intentionality towards our wives. And so I think, when you talk about idolizing, you really have to look at your heart, right? And really kind of say, okay, what's happening on the inside of my heart as it pertains to my wife? When I see her, do I see a blessing from God? Or when I see her, that's all I see is her, right? And then I think you start to kind of understand which way are you moving in your response towards your wife. Is it idolatry, or is it loving her as Christ loved the church?
It's good. It's real good.
Good stuff.
Yeah, y'all got more.
Yep.
Jay, does that get what you're getting at? I don't know if you got a follow-up, my brother. I know it's rapid fire when it comes to Jay. Question of the Jay. Could be questions of the Jay. I gotta make sure you get what you get out of this.
No, man, I'll give you a break on the questions, but I appreciate the insight. I was just curious to notice that at least in the garden, seems all was well when Adam was focused on the garden, but when the girl showed up, he lost focus. So I've been focused on the former, but I'm amazed at the power of Eve, and now she can distract the man from what he's supposed to be focused upon. I'll leave it at that.
Man, I know it. I'm gonna throw it out there. I know Charles hit on this. For y'all who didn't check out episode 19, make sure you go back. But there is an accountability here. We got to make sure that we stay on this shared accountability thing as easy as that is.
No.
Come on, Jay. Come on, bro. Dance around that thing.
Jay trying to put that whole thing.
That's right. It's good until she put that thing on him.
Where are you, Adam? Where are you, Jay? I mean, Adam. That's what he was saying. You know what I'm saying? That was the way.
Jay don't see nothing wrong with Adam's answer. Hey, this the woman that you gave me. He said, I was tilling the soil till you came along and said,
Look at the tree.
You came along talking about it wasn't good for me to be alone.
Yeah.
That's right.
I was good all by myself. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
You know your question is really good.
Can't.
Yeah, go ahead, Charles.
Yeah. I'm sorry, B.
You good.
I just want to say this just in case some folks are like, episode 19. I ain't got time to go back and see that. In the garden, right? From all readings of that scripture, Adam was standing right there. At no point did he slap the fruit out. At no point did he say, Eve, we can't do that, right? And so I know it's kind of lighthearted and we're laughing and kind of joking about that. But I know there are some serious folks who kind of think like that. Like, man, since the garden, women have been leading men astray. But that's really more about, because you think about it, right? Who did God give the command to?
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. Right? Who had been in the garden longer? Mm-hmm. It was Adam. Yeah. Adam was the one who should have been like, Eve, we don't eat from this tree.
That's deep.
And not only do we not eat from this tree, but we don't talk to strange characters either. Right? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? This is we don't get down like this. And so there are a myriad of failures to go around. Here's something that'll break your theological imagination. What if Adam had not eaten of the fruit?
Here we go. We what is this? You done grabbed a time stone and done something else. You got the gauntlet back there. You done something, right? Yeah, new reality.
Boy.
Yeah. But Eve did. But if Eve took and ate and handed it to Adam, and Adam said, God said don't. Right? Granted, we don't know.
But
right?
You know what, Charles? What's interesting about that? Excuse me. When you go back to Jay's question about idolatry, because Eve would have been less than impressed with Adam at that point. She would have got an attitude. She would have been It's just amazing what could have happened if Adam had been on his job and actually not been so concerned about that portion.
Let's make it real life. I'll take it back to Jay's question. Part of the reason, if we want to get to the moment at, okay, she's going to grab it, Adam's present. If I make this present day and still want, and I'm as fallen as probably more fallen than the next man since I'm standing next to y'all brothers. But the idea of like the pressure in saying no to your wife is extreme.
That's real.
In many cases, when you have a heart that you want to please. And that does hit at the intersection of this idolatry thing that says, is my desire to please her greater than that in my heart to really please what he wants, either because I don't want to deal with the repercussions or the challenges or, things are sensitive now, like whatever the case may be. But that's for me, I can speak for me. That's a significant struggle. Even knowing where the account was given, to whom the accountability rests, with whom it rests, et cetera, et cetera. And so, my point is, it is a hard thing to even get in that moment. Some maybe don't care to be like, no, we ain't doing that, and off I go. You know what I mean? Like the slap out shoe. Imagine the slap out today. No, we're not eating that today.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot.
Yeah. It's like that.
Yeah, you need to keep that basement open, Shannon, in case I need to come holler at you. You know what I mean? But I think that it's harder than it. I appreciate the question, but I'll go back to, if you want to do a Cliff's Note of episode 19, Charles said, look, picking right matters. Because at the end of the day, if she's truly trying to please like you are, y'all can't help but kind of grow together and understand that. Not to say there won't be turbulence on the flight, but at least you'll be like, okay, yeah, we're going in the right direction nonetheless. That's a reflection at that moment. We can go back to your Dr. Strange moment if you want, Charles, but that was where I was.
Well,
thinking.
I think you guys are, I think you guys are talking, right kind of in the alley. I think the thing that the other thing I would point out, and this is a lesson for all of us to learn, because I've struggled with this too, right? Do I keep a happy home, or do I take this stand? Those kinds of things. And I think the lesson from the garden, and then what is repeated over and over, because it is that if we go back with our imaginations and say, man, it's hard. Adam couldn't have done that. He just was, going along to get along, whatever the case may be. What did it ultimately get him? Right? It didn't get him. It got him a moment of whatever they got when they bit into the fruit. But we know, right, that they instantly knew that they were naked, that they were ashamed, they hid from God, and then there's enmity between them. Another example too, and not to get too wonky in scripture, but in Genesis 16, Abraham and Sarah, right? Sarah comes to Abraham and says, look, God said I'm gonna have this child, but it's been so long, nothing has happened. Take my handmaid and go into her and have a child. And Abraham does it. And then it said, just in a couple of verses later, it says that once Hagar got pregnant, then she began to look upon Sarah with contempt. And then Sarah began to get mad at Abraham. Yeah. And so in this moment of him, to your point, B, trying to appease his wife, right? He ends up still getting the wrath of her. Not only her wrath, but now she's not happy and God's not happy. Right. So you end up now in this, I think this thing of, because you're never going to be able to, and it's not a woman thing. It's just people thing, right? People are never satisfied, right? It's whatever, this today. Okay. What have you done? What about today? Well, I did, yesterday, then not. Yeah. But what about today? What about today? What about today? And then you find out, and I think is what you're seeing through the kind of the Bible is that, man, it is better. It's hard to get there, right? There's a lot of pressures to get there. I'm not trying to dismiss that, but I think what we see is that, it's better, as David said, man, I'd rather be in the hands of God, right, and receive that judgment than to be, kind of in the hands of men trying to appease and do and follow after them, trying to get their approval. So, yeah, man. Look, it you know,
Bars all around. Bars all around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a tough thing, though, B. I just think about just what you said, man. And I mean, sometimes, man, it'd be tough to say no or not yet to your bride when they ask for something and it's like, man, you know what? Yeah. And it's something just to be straight up. It's like, man, you know what? Man, there might be some buns on the line. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah. And let's
hold on.
Good will, I shouldn't.
Buns in this podcast? I've been wanting to say it.
Hey,
I'm glad Grady's opened up the door to the. No.
Hey, I'm just. I see your comment, Jay. Hey, but straight up. Hey, I'm just saying, man. You might be willing to compromise. Say, man, you know what? Yeah, why not? I'm not gonna forfeit this. So and end up, it wasn't even worth. You know what I'm saying? It's like, man, you know what? I should have followed God on that decision. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Grady, in saying that, and brothers, do you guys think that there's do you think there's levels to this thing, like where in that there's times where you can say yes and maybe the consequences are not necessarily as grievous, you know? So, hey, you know what, you want blue carpet, I thought we should put red, but let's go ahead and go with blue carpet, you know? But then there's times where you say, hey, you know what, on this here, I can't deviate from what I know Lord is calling me to do as the priest, the provider, and the protector of this household. But on blue carpet, you know what? Hey, it's blue carpet, and it's going to make her happy. Mm-hmm. So I think when you look at it from that perspective, at least in my 32 years of marriage, I think there's been opportunities to have various levels of, because, you know, hey, there are, as her husband, I do want to please her. I do want her to be happy. But at the same time, there's some things where it's like, no, on this, we're not going to bend. And at that point, I think the track record then begins to say, hey, she can follow me knowing that I've got the best interest of this household in mind. And you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really good.
Yep.
So that's kind of where, you know, case in point, a couple of years ago, and B, if we're short on time, let me know. But
you're good, man. You know that.
A couple of years ago, in my desire to please Robin, went out and bought her a new whip, and it was a white whip. I was like, man, this is it. This is it. And so I think I may have shared this with you, Shannon. But I brought the car home, took it to her job, had it delivered. You know, it was like, and she drove it home. And later that night, I'm thinking, oh man, this is about to be, you know, this is getting ready to be kudos time, And my wife asked me, she said, babe, do you have the ability to take that car back? I mean, that's when you open up the floor like on the cartoons, and the dude just falls through the floor and the floor goes, and I was just kind of like. But long story short, what happened was, I ended up buying Robin the car that I wanted her to have. And she was like, babe, you know, after we had the conversation, she was basically saying, hey, you know, we're at a point in our lives where for all the years prior to, I drove what I had to drive. I drove what basically let you pick my rides. But at this point, I would like to pick my own car. I'd like to be a part of the process. She's like, I really don't want another white vehicle. This one is like a glorified little station wagon to me. The car I had before is set up nice and high. And she was like, and quite frankly, I would love to have a blue car. And, you know, and I thought about it, and it was one of those things where I was just like, you know what? This is one of those times where she should have a blue car. She should be able to pick and be a part of this process. But I could have pushed the envelope and said, hey, this was a great deal. This has everything you could ever want on it. But I was like, you know what? This is one of those times where I don't think this was a fruit smacking situation. This was, hey, I'm going to defer to her and let her be a part of this process. And it went well. And I was very pleased with the outcome of not pushing the envelope in that particular case, if that makes sense. So
it does, man. I appreciate your transparency,
That's
Joe.
good stuff, man. Yeah.
Go grab my notes real quick.
Yeah,
that's good stuff, because I can see how like some cats, or we could have manipulated that and made it a fruit smacking issue.
Yeah, because she would have drove it. I mean, she was willing. She was just like, "Hey, can we take it?" But once I got over myself and like, man, you don't like this?
And you heard her what she was really saying.
Yeah. So
that's good stuff, man.
No, that's good, Joe. Appreciate that, Uncle Joe. Jay, you good? Anything else you got, man? You done sparked another one. Question of the Jay debut segment.
Yo, quick test. I mean, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
You spoke of turbulence, and just as an add-on, when Paul states, "But those who marry will face troubles in this life, and I want to spare you of this," which troubles was Paul talking about? And how do you solve them?
You want to hit us with some context, Jay?
Yeah.
Context being
for the group,
Song of Solomon, 2:15. I believe Solomon's wife or bride says, "Catch for us the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards, our vineyards that are in bloom." And I guess that was an illustration, speaking of the love, where little foxes represent the problems that you might have in a relationship. I was curious how Christian husbands should identify and destroy the little foxes of their earthly relationship, or since this might have been presented as a prayer in Song of Solomon 2:15, do those responsibilities actually fall to God rather than you as a man?
Charles, you sound like
Jay,
you're going.
man.
I know.
No, I'm always impressed. You know, some people be like, how many fingers did God use to part the Red Sea? You know, Jay be like, look, in the Old Testament, where it states such and so and so. Yeah. So here's a couple of things, man, and I don't want to get too. Like I said,
yes, you do. Yes, you do. Listen, don't lie to the people, Charles. First of all, don't lie on the podcast.
He got a lot of moat.
But yeah, go ahead, set it up.
So let me step way back and say that when we read the Bible, it is so important to understand what kind of literature you're reading, right? So the Bible. Sometimes people think the Bible. They would be like, hey, man, this is an awesome book. But it's not a book like we think about it. It's a collection of books, so to speak. And so the Bible is less like going into, going somewhere and getting a book off a shelf. It's more like stepping into a library. And there's a historical section, there's a poetry section, there's a narrative section, there's actually an essay section of people's letters and things like that. And so when you're approaching it, you have to say, okay, what kind of text, what kind of literary genre is it that I'm reading, right? And so the Songs of Solomon are poetic a literature. That's the genre that it is. And so what that means is that it's going to be using imagery. It's going to be using metaphors. It's going to be using analogies. I mean, I think there's a place in there where it talks about, your smile is like a flock of goats. You know what I'm saying? Something crazy that doesn't even, we thinking goats. What does that even mean? But in the context and the time, right, it makes perfect sense, and it's creating these images for us. So that's the one thing. So I think sometimes you have to say, okay, what is being said here, and then what is the intent from things being descriptive versus prescriptive, right? Is what I'm reading descriptive, meaning it's just telling me what was going on, what somebody was thinking, what may have happened, how folks were acting, or is it being prescriptive, meaning it's actually telling me in my context what to do, right? Those kinds of things. And so I think that's always important, because what we like to do is we like to grab stuff out of its original context and then try to shove it into another context and then try to make some type of hard, fast rule from that. So let me just say that. So I say all that to say that the Song of Solomon, right, is it's better read, and then this is where it really gets there. It's better read, right, as a reflection on the Garden of Eden. Right? It's better read as a man and a woman in paradise, right? Living this life that God had, intended from the very beginning. A lot of the imagery in there is Garden of Eden imagery and language, and it's giving kind of this image of, man, what it would be like if, right, we were unhindered, if all we could do was just focus on one another, those kinds of things. So I think that's the large kind of stroke of the Song of Solomon. To push it even further, though, because Jay, I think you did hit on a really, really good question that says, what about this thing about, would it be easier if you didn't get married? Paul says that, right? It would be easier if you didn't get married, that kind of stuff. And I think in certain aspects, yes, it would be. It would be easier to devote yourself to the Lord. And that's the context now. That's the context. The context isn't just, would life be easier? That's not what Paul is talking about. Paul is talking about, and even in that 1 Corinthians chapter 7, kind of the context for that are folks who are leaving their pagan religions, becoming Christians, and they've got all kinds of crazy home situations. In some cases, the husband has become a believer in Christ, but the wife hasn't, or the wife has and the husband hasn't. In some cases, they may have been temple prostitutes having sex with a bunch of people, and now all of a sudden they believe in the Lord. So they're thinking, what should we do now, right? Should we go and get married now, or should we stay? All this kind of stuff. So there's all these contexts that are feeding into it. Even when I talk about the literary genre has to be taken into consideration, even at the beginning of 1 Corinthians 7, Paul says, now concerning those things that I spoke to you about before. Well, what things? We don't 100% know, because when you're writing a letter, you're not recapping every single thing that you previously talked about. There's an assumption that the other person already gets it. So like even when me and Joe were telling that story about the Popeyes chicken, there's a whole story and context behind that everybody else listening is like, wait a minute, they started a race ride on Popeyes chicken. Now we know what we're talking about and what it means, but the people reading from the outside would be like, man, we must don't eat at Popeyes chicken because they racist. No, that, so there's a whole context to that you wouldn't understand. And so you have to kind of get all that's kind of around and behind to then be able to pull from that and say, what's the application, right? And what you may find out, here's the interesting thing, and this may rub some people the wrong way, but once you do the heavy lifting to understand the context, you may actually find out, oh, there is no actual application to me kind of in my present context, but there may be a principle, right? There may be a principle that is more applicable than the actual kind of the instruction. And so, I think what Paul is saying when he says, look, it would be easier is he's really saying it would be easier for you to devote yourself wholly and fully to the Lord if you weren't married. We can push this further. It would be easier for you to devote yourself to the Lord if you didn't have a job. It'd be easier for you to devote yourself to the Lord if you didn't have children. It'd be easier. You see what I'm saying? That there's all these things that are going to come and want our time and attention, right? And it really becomes, look, if you are in a state, and I think that's what Paul is saying, where you can devote yourself wholly to the Lord, do that. Right? Don't be in such a hurry to get out of that place, is what Paul is saying, because Paul would later say that all that I consider to be gain in this world, I count as loss in comparison to what I have now gained in knowing Christ. So Paul is talking from a context that he has a whole different, his measuring rod is completely different than the way we're thinking. We're thinking, man, the American dream, the picket fence, the 2.3 kids, these whips we were talking about, a fine woman on my arm, man, that's living blessed. Paul says, no, living blessed is knowing the Savior, walking with the Savior, communing with the Savior, having singular focus on the Savior. Now he says, if you've got these other things, the Savior informs us on how to do those other things. But man, if you can wholly devote yourself to knowing Christ, that's where you should be.
There it is.
Yeah, let the church say amen. Thank you, brother.
So you saying we don't need to really break down what the foxes were all about? Is that what you're basically saying, Charles? Is that where we gonna land the ship on?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
What I'm saying is chasing what the foxes mean is chasing foxes.
All these, there's no implication on going outside after the podcast to go run around and do nothing. No, it's good stuff. Good stuff, Charles. It's funny how it all comes back to obedience and Christ is Lord, and are you going after that as number one at the end of the day?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, good stuff. You never know where this thing's gonna go, especially with questions of the J. That's all I'm saying.
Right,
so Jay, we
right.
appreciate you for blessing us with the runaround.
Jay,
And Charles, we appreciate the sermonette, brother. We appreciate the sermonette.
I got to tone it down. I've been talking.
No, hey man, it's bars.
Something new every time, man. Thanks a lot.
Man, S. Dot. Speaking of which, we still got one more segment to hit. What we got, Grady?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're going to wrap this on up with the scripture of the day. We're going to come out of the book of Revelation 21, verse 5. And we hit on the previous verse before on episode 17. Episode 17, I'm sorry. It was a Juneteenth Father's Day edition. Feel free to go back in the archives. So we hit on verse 4, where it talks about he's going to wipe away every tear and all of that. So verse 5, and thought this might be something that we can kind of have a little fun with. As you can see, it says, behold, I'm sorry, he who was seated on the throne said, behold, I'm making all things new. And with this being a new year, right? You know, we're about 12 days or so into it, this being a new year. There's a little bit of correlation there, but to give it real brief context, at the end of 20, those whose names weren't written in the Lamb's Book of Life were basically dismissed. And this is John on the island of Patmos. He's getting this vision from Jesus himself. And again, people whose names were not written in the Lamb's Book of Life were put into the lake of fire. And now at 21, those whose names are written, just talking about what awaits those who have surrendered their life to Jesus, just to make it plain and simple. And this right here, a new heaven, new earth was made. And this is just beautiful. So that's a real quick 20-second kind of summary. But here it says, behold, I'm making all things new. And this really touched me a few ways, and really looking forward to going around the horn. One is, these past 2 years have been really challenging, and it really caused us to change your perspective a lot. I mean, it really makes you change your perspective on, man, is this it? I mean, is this it in life? And when you're reading this, when you look at this, now I get so much hope and excitement. I mean, all this struggle that we're experiencing, I mean, we keep hearing the news. I mean, it's the COVID numbers going up, and I mean, just a lot of people getting kidnapped in Haiti. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. It just makes you wonder, it's like, man, like what is going on? And when I read this, it's like, wow, thank you for this promise. There hasn't been a single promise yet that he has not made good on. And I know for a fact he will make good on this promise. And it just lets me know, man, you know what? It's going to be a brand new experience for us. And all this is temporal. Is it challenging? Yes, it's definitely not to downplay, because yours truly didn't experience some very difficult things. And I know everybody that's listening has as well. I'm encouraged in the fact that, man, it's temporal for the believer specifically, that we're going to be able to experience newness and be like detached from all this garbage that is going on. And I'm gonna go ahead and slow it down, because I really enjoy this passage. I really do. And for those who have seen the Passion, this line was shared in there. It just, man, it's like every time I hear that, man, the tears just come flowing, but I just get excited. So anyway, I'm done. Let me pass the horn, go around, man. Who wants to go ahead and step up?
Fernando, what you got, bro?
Man, hey, come back to me, man. I got to chew on this for a little bit.
Okay. Uncle Joe with the Pacer hat on.
Man, what I find interesting about this, just from the standpoint of timeliness, man, from the standpoint of what we've been getting at Solid Word for the past 2 weeks with Pastor Costin, just talking about out of Matthew, talking about, our focus and whether or not our focus is eternal. And one of the things that struck me either the week after for New Year's or just this last week, but just when you think about living this life, living for this life only is ultimately a loss in the end. And one of the things that Costin had mentioned was the fact that, even if I accomplish and get everything that you want in this life, it's for naught if it has no eternal focus, and it goes back to a scripture that's very familiar, when you think about what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul at the end. And it just struck me that, man, as we've talked about, man, if money was no object, they could buy any car you want. You got houses. I read something today where it was trying to break down the incomprehensibility of Jeff Bezos' worth. And it's just like, you can't even fathom how rich this man is in terms of dollars and cents in this world. But if this man dies without knowing the Lord, it's all for naught. It means nothing without an eternal focus. And one might say, oh, that's easy to say, if you had his money, you wouldn't be saying that. But when you really think about it, and to Shannon's point, man, all that we've experienced over these last 2 years and are still experiencing, and I know for me personally, even when you think about COVID, recently coming off of COVID and being here still, but knowing that there's brothers and sisters that I know that are not only still dealing with it in the hospital and fighting for their lives, but there's so many that are not here anymore. The perspective begins to change, and you begin to say, wow, Lord, I need to change my focus. And the Lord is saying, just like he said in 2 Corinthians 5:17, that all things are old. You in me equals a new person. All that other stuff is old and passed away. So when I think about that, my perspective in life, man, I've just found is really beginning to change. And you add up this last 2 years with my age and just other things that are going on, you just really begin to realize, man, it needs to be eternally focused. And to Shannon's point, there's an excitement that comes from that, not about the glitz and glamour of what's going on in this world. Not that you don't enjoy some of these things, but they truly begin to take a back seat when compared to eternity. And lastly, the last thing I'll say is, thinking about, I think recently, just before last week when Betty White passed away, and you realize that she was 2 weeks from her 100th birthday. And in earthly terms, we'd be like, man, that's like me living another 46 years, man. That's an incredibly long time from an earthly perspective. And a lot of folks don't really get past 50, 60, 70 years old. Once you start hitting 80, 90, we start tripping like, wow, that is incredible. Yeah. But there again, when you compare her 100 years to eternity, it's nothing. It's absolutely not even a blip on the radar.
Yep.
And that begins to really tell you, man, no matter what happens in this life, man, it's just a blip on the radar. So if I have that eternal focus, that's where the excitement comes from, because everything else it's not lasting that long. Even though it may seem like it's not lasting long. Even if it's 100 years, it's not long. And I'm done.
Charles, what you got, man?
Yeah, I think similar to Shannon, I get excited. Revelation is a really neat book. I know it's quote unquote scary and all kinds of things like that. But I think that there's a couple of things that I think are really encouraging. One, and he who was seated on the throne. Mm-hmm. Right? Right there is the authority, the credibility, the just sovereignty to even make the statement, right? This isn't just someone saying, man, we hope that all things are going to be made new, but he who was seated on the throne says, behold, I'm making all things new. And I am going to get a little bit of nerdy here because that's what I was just looking up to be sure. But in the original Greek, right, this verb is present active. So it translates, behold, I make all things new. Right. So right. And so it's to me, it's a little bit different. It's not like it's like one is wrong, one is right. But I think it sounds different to me because I am making all things new sounds like it's somewhere off in the future. But behold, I make all things new. It really fits in line with John's gospel. And this is an extension of John's writing because John deals with the already not yet a lot. He talks in terms of things we already have in Christ, but it's just not fully realized. Right. And when I think about it like that I already am made new in Christ. I'm not the end result of the new making, so to speak, that I will be. But the moment, that's what John says, the moment you accept Christ, man, I'm living my eternal life now. I'm living in my eternal life. Death will just be a transition. But I've started. The moment I accepted Christ, the moment anyone accepted Christ, they began living their eternal life. And the process of being made new has begun. The last thing I'll say, just to bring it all full circle, if you continue reading after this chapter, because this is the new heaven and the new earth, in the next chapter after this, John goes on to say, and I saw a river, and on either side of the river was the tree of life. So this thing is going full circle, all the way back, right, to the very beginning. And what we see, this is another podcast, but what we see in Jesus is where the humans, and y'all may hear me say this I'm about to preach in February. You'll hear me say this again. But where humans failed in the garden, Jesus passed the test in his garden, right? And is the reason why now all things are being reset. Why everything now can go back to what God originally intended, because he was the one who didn't partake of the tree, so to speak, right? He is the one who didn't reach out and grab hold of what he thought was right, but trusted and believed in God. So yeah, I'm with you, Shannon. There's a lot of good stuff in here. And especially in light of the things that you face, to know that yet and still God is making us new through Jesus Christ, even in light of everything that we see around us.
Mm-hmm.
Fernando.
Yeah, man. It just puts, just kind of putting, you were talking to me earlier about, going to the game Monday night and seeing the excitement on like 80,000 people, and the emotion that they were putting into a game of people that didn't die for them, And I'm like, man, this much emotion, and you could you could feel it. Like, and I didn't really have a dog in the fight, but it was like, wow. Am I knowing the truth and knowing this hope and knowing this new thing, like Charles was talking about, it's already started. That's basically from the point of salvation, even though we haven't been glorified, it's promised it's going to happen. Am I looking at it like that every day? Or am I, losing my gaze and looking at other stuff here that's in even with the pleasing your wife thing? It's like, okay, this is a simple yes, because I can deal with her one-on-one. I can deal with God later on, And I mean, that's the way I'm saying. I think, are we thinking our minds like I can give this yes and deal with him later?
Yeah,
That's real.
But just kind of just pulling all of that in and like, man, what it's really about. Because I saw people, like I told you, I saw a Georgia fan. They won the game. This is a dude, a grown man, was crying like a baby because he was so emotional that Georgia won. You know, and I'm like, I know, like eternity. I know I'm going. You know, I'm going, and am I showing that or giving that to others that don't have it, or do they see it in me? You know, that's how it hit me, man.
That's deep. Man, that's real, y'all. Jay, you got anything on this, my brother?
You know, admittedly, I don't know much about Revelation, so I'm gonna defer to the professionals on this one. I'll leave it at that.
Ain't no professionals. Cool. You in the club? Hey, it's all good.
Cool, man.
It hits you as it hits you.
You got your own segment and video, man.
Word up.
Yeah, you legit.
That's right.
Word up.
Well, no, frankly, for context, the only context I know of anything being new was with respect to Ecclesiastes and saying how a lot of things, nothing new under the sun. I think that's probably just limited to this world, not anything about the new world beyond it. So obviously, I need to focus more, learn more about Revelation, and go from there. But ultimately, at least the thing that I got of it for this year, not so much resolutions, but just trying to focus on gladness of heart. Ecclesiastes is probably one of my favorite books of the Bible, but Ecclesiastes 5, 19 and 20, it speaks of God. When God gives someone wealth and possessions and the ability to enjoy them, to accept their lot, to be happy in their toil, this is a gift from God. They seldom reflect on the days of their life because God keeps them occupied with gladness of heart. Now, I don't know if Solomon was depressed when he wrote this, but I always thought that was sort of a good message. And I'm really focused on trying to be glad for the few days I have on this earth. And that's all I got.
That's real, man.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Jay, to hear you talk about that, this idea of, everything's meaningless, nothing new under the sun, but it's because of this. Like at the end of the day, none of that stuff matters. What we were looking at on this picture is what matters, man. I appreciate all y'all intel on this. The thing that jumps out to me is like shortly hereafter. I mean, you looking, it's kind of cool because it's like, it's a promise. It's a done deal. Like all this is done. I mean,
yes, sir.
Charles mentioned like, hey, he's on the throne, so that's enough authority. He says I'm doing it, and then he says, hey man, and write it down. You know what I mean? And take that thing. Right. Earlier it was like bind it on your neck. Now he's like, go write it. I'm like, man, I need to give me a pen somewhere and go sit down. And it's really powerful. That despite all the stuff I've done, who I am, what's going on around, external or internally caused. Man, I'll make it personal. I'm in that book. He's transformed me. I'm getting to that end, and he's going to go ahead and pull me across the finish line. So it is, Shannon, I'm glad you brought this one, man. It does encourage me even this evening, man. So it's just amazing going back to scriptures and just seeing what is it, how does that move you today? Because it's always some fresh truths in that thing. So, man, mad love, man. Appreciate y'all, brothers. Mad love for y'all, man. Just know that, and glad we can sit back and reflect on some truth with that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank y'all for the input, and we hope that those that are listening, that you can see we try to talk about normal, everyday things and have some fun and joke, and at the same time, realize that man, there's this amazing book, as Charles just shared, that has a lot of content that can really just be a blessing to our lives if we just seek him out and help us understand it and read it, and it can completely change us, and he wants it to change us. So. Yeah, just thank you for tuning in for real. And man, those promises are. I'm excited, man. I'm hyped. Well, let's.
Hey, Greg. And in verse 6, man, he says, then he said to me, "It is done." Like I'm like, okay, don't even talk about it. Like, I don't know. I'm hyped. You got me. I'm supposed to be going to bed. Man.
Hey, it is done, cuz. Look at that.
Yeah.
Let's go, man.
Yeah. That's right. I'm gonna go to work tomorrow and be like, I make things. I can't say I can't make them new, but I'm gonna use that. I make things.
It's done. Drop the mic.
Man, it's all. Man, listen, we done gone. For y'all, thank y'all for hanging in here with us, man. It's been a pleasure, man. Time flies when you're having fun, and clearly when you're learning something too. So I appreciate that. Jay, question to Jay. Appreciate you, FP, man. You and the Beats headphones, man. We appreciate you. Jay Has with the big face, man. My man. I'm talking about the big face watch, man. That's what I'm
Joe
talking
in
about.
the house. Right. Good to have you, bro.
Wardrobe changes. Man,
that's right. That's right.
And Charles, it's always a pleasure, man, when you bless us, man. Grady, my partner in crime, man. You know it's love, brother.
Man, come
Tell
on.
them
now.
where to find us, man. Let them know where to catch us. Where can they catch us at?
Yeah, y'all jump on every podcast site that you can get a hold of, man. We on there. Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, totallycrossout.com, all that stuff. Even talk to your Alexa, Amazon device. Hey, listen to Totally Crossed Out podcast, and you might just hear a couple of familiar voices, including additional 4 voices on this episode. So, yeah, I'm excited.
That is love, man. For the homie S. For the panel, who we hope to get back on here, who knows, maybe even next week. We appreciate y'all, and we're going to catch y'all the next time. Peace.
Thank you, brothers. Appreciate y'all.
Go chase them clouds away. We've got no time to waste. It's a new day. It's a new day. Strive to find within you peace of mind, and you'll have wings to fly. It's a brand new day.
We on a mission before, during, and after the entire song. Disregard the attacks when they be lying, homes. Just a little more traction. Firestone, breastplate of righteousness. Fam, you should try it on. And when the drama come, I hope they ask why it's so. My M.O. rates the sword high like lion.